here with the Loenard Real Estate Group, and I want to thank you guys for inviting us back in. It's already July in 2018, so half the year's already gone by. Get an update and see kind of what's going on in the real estate market here in Miami Springs.
Well, first of all, time flies when you're having a good time, and we're certainly doing that. And thank you for having us and giving us the opportunity to give you the mid-year real estate update.
Perfect.
We appreciate it. Well, let's get right to work. As of June 30th, we had about 36 houses on the market. The total value of the list price was $17,445,000.
Wow.
If you combine all these properties, that would equate to a house that has 115 rooms, 77 bathrooms, 64,219 square feet. Bringing it down to what that amounts to is the average sale price of about $484,000. Average size just under 1,800 square feet, 3.2. And the average price per square feet on the asking side was $242.
Wow.
Okay, and on the sale side, we had from January 1st through June 30th, we had 63 houses that were sold. The average price was about $430,000. Again, typical house was 3 bedrooms, 2 baths, a little bit over 1,800 square feet, and the price per square feet was $241.
Now the number of homes that sold in the first 6 months sounds pretty high. Is that normal for this area, or is it above what the normal is?
Well, there's good activity here in Miami Springs, like there is everywhere. I guess the biggest impediment is going to be the lack of inventory. If there were more inventories, the sales would be even higher than that. So, but we're selling an average, when I say we, the market is turning over about a little bit over 10 houses per month.
So if someone's been sitting on, they've got a property and they've been thinking about selling it and they've been kind of on the sidelines, would you say this is more of a buyer's market or seller's market at this point?
Well, right now the housing inventory in Miami Springs is about 4 months. In the industry, when you have a 6-month housing supply, it's considered equal and balanced between buyers and sellers. So when you fall into the 6 month, like we are now, 4 months, so the advantage is to the seller. So if you're a seller, now's a very good time to sell. If the supply goes above 6 months, then the buyers have the advantage and it becomes a buyer's market. But today, we are in a seller's market. Interest rates are great. So if you're thinking about selling, now's a good time to, think about it and see what your house might be worth.
So and you said right now the inventory is about 4 months. So someone who's interested in buying, what your advice to someone who's trying to buy right now based off what you're saying?
Well, first of all, get qualified. Know exactly how much you can afford. And then take a look at what's out there and make your offer. Because if you don't make it, someone else will make it.
Now as far as, let's talk on the entry level side. Someone who's new to the market, based on what you've seen so far, what are kind of the low end prices getting into for a starter home in Miami Springs?
Really the low end price is probably, you're looking at nothing less than $310,000 with this list as of June 30th. You're probably looking closer to the $350 range as the entry level. I mean, there's always exceptions to the rule. There's a short sale that was priced very, very low. But usually you're probably looking more in the $350 minimum in the Miami Springs market.
And that's for a detached house, right?
Yeah, it's a detached house, typical, most likely a 2-1,
okay.
Maybe a 3-1, but that's probably your entry-level property in Miami Springs.
What about apartments? What are you seeing going on apartment sales?
Apartments, again, I just want to mention, Nestor, that all of these houses sold or on the market are just based on the MLS. There's other properties that sold. If I look at the whole, Miami-Dade tax records for Miami Springs, there'll probably be additional homes, and maybe next time we do an update, we'll include, everything that's MLS and non-MLS.
Right.
But when you look at the apartment market, I don't know if you want to talk about that, Sean, or?
You can go out with the apartment market.
All right. The apartment market is small, very, very small, and apartments rarely go up for sale. And when they do go up for sale, they go pretty fast.
Wow.
Okay, but the average price per square feet on a condo in Miami Springs, probably about $210 a foot. and the typical size is probably about 800 square feet. And they're usually a typical is a 2-1, maybe a 2-2.
So if someone were to get into an apartment, what kind of a price range or budget should they be thinking about?
I would say that for a 2-2, they probably should be looking anywhere from, I'd say, about 180,000 to 200,000. But the thing about apartments is that you need to be a cash buyer because banks are much more difficult to finance a condo.
Okay.
So you could buy a house giving a 5% down payment with no issues, but when you go buy a condo, the banks are going to want 20, 25%. And the interesting part is that not only does the buyer have to qualify, but so does the building where the condo is located. And what do I mean by that? They need to have good reserves, they need to have updated maintenance, they need to have low delinquency rates as far as home ownership, paying their dues on time, and also the ratio between renters and owner-occupied units. So the building has to qualify, and so does the buyer. So it makes it very challenging unless you have, cash.
So if you're a first-time buyer, would you steer them more towards maybe a starter 2-1 detached house as opposed to an apartment?
You want to take that?
Yes, absolutely. It's going to be a lot easier to get into. There's going to be less strings attached from the get-go. And you can have an FHA loan, which means you can do a 3% down, 3.5% down. So it's just a lot less money that you're going to need to put down to get the entire deal done. So definitely go for a home.
That's surprising. And it makes sense what you're telling me, but I was thinking, okay, if you're kind of new, maybe an apartment for the first time, if the price is right, but if you can get qualified for a low down payment, so it may work for the house.
Yeah, if you can get a condo for $180,000, you're still going to need. Let's say you get a condo for $200,000 to make the numbers easier. You're going to need $40,000. That's just for the down payment. Then you're going to need another $8,000 for closing costs. So you're looking at almost 50 grand to get into an apartment or a condo that's worth 180 grand. Now, if you go to a 2-1 home and maybe it's 350,000, 3.5% down. I mean, I don't know what that number is off the top of my head, but it's a lot less.
Well, the other part of that is that when you're buying a home, you don't need to worry about that condo fee or that homeowners association fee.
Right.
That when you try to qualify for a condo, they're going to take that into consideration as part of your housing expenses, which that will not count towards the housing expense on a house, which lets you buy or borrow that additional amount.
Right.
So a condo is tricky unless you have cash and it's the right buyer,
So basically, the apartments right now, cash buyers. For a new buyer, really you steer them more towards a small starter home.
Yeah,
Right.
a small starter home that maybe needs, it's not in perfect condition, needs a few touch-ups, maybe a little remodeling. That's the house that you want to look for. But everybody wants to look for those. So if you see one, you got to get your foot in the door, even if it means putting in an offer that's at asking price, and then maybe trying to negotiate along the way to get it a little lower. There's some things that you can do there, but you got to get your foot in the door with these properties that are at 350,000 or under in Miami Springs. If you're looking, you got to go for it.
Now, let's talk about the flip side of that, more on the luxury side and on the high-end side. Obviously, Miami Springs has a full range of homes. We have a lot of the luxury golf course homes, the bigger homes with larger estates, larger square footage, a lot of luxury amenities, pools,
Right.
High-end kitchens and baths. Tell us a little bit about what's going on the high-end side of the market.
Well, the most expensive home sold this last year was at 374 Hunting Lodge Drive, and that house was listed for $1.7 million. It ended up selling for $1,450,000. Again, with a 4-bedroom, 4-bath, 3-car garage. It had over almost 5,500 square feet, and it was also sitting on 45,000 square foot lot.
Wow.
So when you talk about luxury, that's probably it right now in Miami Springs.
And that was on the golf course as well.
And that was on the golf course. And you had a lot of land. The typical lot in Miami Springs is about 10,000 square feet, just under 10,000. So imagine this one had 4 times the typical. And The typical size is about 1,800 square feet.
Oh, it's triple.
3.2, so it's almost triple the square footage of the house. So yeah, it did sell for 1.5 million.
So
1.45.
does that go on record as the most expensive home sold in Springs?
So far this year, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
As far as history, I believe that right before the crisis, during the bubble, there was another one that sold a little bit higher than that, if I recall.
Okay. That's up there in terms of one of the most expensive homes ever sold in Miami Springs.
Now, if you want to see what the cheapest home sold for so far, it was in Virginia Gardens.
Okay. And what did that one go for?
That one went for, I'm sorry, let's go back. It was in Miami Springs, and that sold for $230,000.
What was the address?
That was 45 Ludlam. And that was most likely a wood frame home,
Right.
which is what you get, and that sold for $121 a foot. Almost half of what the average.
Got it. How big a home was that?
This home was, it was considerable size, about 1,800 square feet. But again, it was probably a wood frame home that needed a lot of work, and maybe even a demolition candidate for redevelopment.
I was just gonna say, any buyers that are out there that are hearing that price, that are hoping to find that, I would not hold your breath to try and, if you're a conventional buyer that's looking to try to finance a home through a bank. This house, I'm 90% sure if I look at it, it was, a cash buyer who is redeveloping, and so there's no real chance to compete against that as a conventional buyer.
All right. Any other highlights in terms of things that stick out so far this year?
Let's see.
Talk a little bit about the inventory drop.
Yeah, definitely. You can talk about the inventory drop, which is significant.
So I posted this earlier last month, maybe on MiamiSprings.com and the Miami Springs Facebook site, showing a side-by-side comparison of the January sales and the sales where we're at now. And the biggest thing that you really want to look at is the inventory. So in January there were 51 houses that were for sale, and then in late June, there were 33 houses that were for sale.
That's almost half the number of homes.
That's almost half the number of homes. Probably about 33 to 35% drop in inventory. So that kind of drop in inventory is going to really push prices up because it's supply and demand, right? You have low supply and you have high demands, and you've also got interest rates that are creeping up a little bit, but they're still very low. So that's going to maintain prices in Miami Springs. We're not going to see a drop or really, a leveling off. I don't think anytime soon. We've still got a lot of action here, and the low inventory is the main thing that is pushing that forward.
We still see an upside as far as values, but it's hard to tell or hard to predict, which I would never do that. But 2019 could be a different story. It could be a real slowdown. You probably see at least maybe 2 more interest rate increases, which would definitely put more people out of the market. And if the inventory continues to be low, I think you'll start to see a slowdown next year.
So for the buyer who is hearing this and saying, "Wow, it's a seller's market," but still wants to get in, what do you recommend for them? Get a hold of you.
I would say for any buyer, young couple that's out there, even though it's a seller's market, you have great interest rate, number one, and number two, you start to own your own home instead of renting, and that money that you rent, you're never going to get back. But even though you're buying a home and maybe it's a seller's market, that's an investment, and that's an investment for your future. And years down the road, you might be renting that house, or you might be able to sell it to upgrade to something else. But yes, take advantage of the low interest rates.
And for any first-time buyers, if you're thinking about what do I actually need, how much money do I need, try to think about getting I would say between $15,000 and $25,000, probably minimum, as the amount of cash that you're going to need to actually put down to buy a home. You're going to need 3.5% down, plus you need to think about closing costs. So about $20,000 is give or take the start for about a starter home to put down in Miami Springs.
Now let me ask you, my memory on this is a little bit fuzzy, but a lot of folks may have some cash in a 401k. Are they allowed to use that cash in a 401k as a down payment for the home?
Yeah, I believe that one of the exceptions for using your 401k without a penalty and all that is to buy a house, preferably your first home.
Right.
But they need to check with their 401k plan to see. But usually you can do that, and sometimes you can borrow from your 401k to use that as your down payment and all of that. But one other piece of advice that I would give any buyer out there is, get your house in order. Make sure that you keep your credit right. Don't go out and buy a new car when you're in the process of buying a new house. Don't make any, extraordinary expenditure like, furniture. Wait till you buy the house. Don't apply for credit anywhere, because all that will affect your ability to qualify. And it'll affect your credit score. So if you're in the process of buying, just focus on buying the house. Don't do other things that could affect your credit rating or your ability to qualify.
And hire a local real estate agent. It's no cost to the buyer, and I don't know why people who are looking to buy a house try to go it on their own. It's really complicated. There's a lot of listings out there. There's a lot of price variation and negotiation that takes place. And if you're trying to do it yourself, you really should take advantage of a local real estate expert, because they're going to help a lot.
And I want to stress that point again, is a lot of people do try to do it on their own in terms of buying a home, and the reality is most homes are being sold with a realtor. There is no expense for a realtor to help you buy that home.
Right.
It's an added free service to get your insight when you're buying.
Right. When the house is listed, that seller is being represented by the listing agent. So if you're a buyer, you want to hire an agent that represents you, and that person becomes the buyer's agent. And that way you're represented and you're on a level playing field with the seller. So I would hire a realtor to represent you when you're buying, and obviously hire a realtor when you're selling, because you want that representation as well.
There's regarding, and I know we're talking about the menu, but I want to touch on having representation when you're selling. There's a misconception that you're going to make more money without a realtor, and it's not true. If you go online, check out any information out there talking about what's the commission and what's the standard sale with a real estate agent. A real estate agent sale is going to be far higher than a for sale by owner, easily making up any commission that you're paying. So make sure you do your research if you're looking to sell. Make sure you understand how much you're paying in commission versus how much your house is going to sell for with a real estate agent, with the right marketing, with having it done professionally, and look at everything before you decide to put it up on the market on your own, because people have gone into it on their own and found that it's a lot trickier, and they waste a lot of time doing it that way.
And it sounds like time is key in this current market.
Yeah,
it is. One final note, interesting statistic. We're the oldest house sold in Miami Springs was built in 1924.
Wow.
So can you imagine that?
Well, which home was
almost
that?
100-year-old house.
Wow.
Right in Miami Springs. That sold at it was located at 230 Miami Springs Avenue. Sold for $434,000, about 1,800 square feet. Again, more or less the average.
Wow.
But it was built in 1924.
Wow.
So we almost sold a 100-year-old property here in Miami Springs.
We're gonna start the anniversary that soon.
Before you know it, yes.
Perfect. Well, guys, I appreciate you inviting us here and sharing the information with the community. And this is very valuable real estate advice with a quickly moving and hot market. So again, thank you very much. Now, we'll obviously have this in the notes, but where should they go if they want to get more real estate advice?
Well, we would appreciate it if they would call us. We're here to come see us. We'll talk to them about their particular situation, and hopefully they'll be satisfied with the results.
We're located at 190 Westwood Drive, right across from my little Greek deli and the police department. And you can contact Charlie at 305-726-8416.
And the website is?
LoenardRealEstateGroup.com.
Perfect. Thanks, guys. I really appreciate it.
Thank you for having us.